Okay, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Iron Roots podcast brought to you by Play. I'm your host, Zach Evanesh, and in this episode, I'm bringing an awesome book back, one of my favorites, written from the early 1900s, and the author's nickname was the Russian Lion.
This is Play's Iron Roots,
A podcast dedicated to uncovering the strength legends, the training methods, and the stories around physical culture and iron history. I'm your host, Zach Evanesh. Grab yourself a protein shake, chalk up, and prepare to travel back in time through some of the most awe-inspiring stories of iron history. It's go time. Okay, guys, so let's get into it. I'm talking about a book called The Way to Live, written by George Hackenschmidt, aka the Russian Lion. When I first picked up this book, and I've actually got various copies of this book, one of them I accidentally purchased in a completely different language because I believe the country of origin of the Russian Lion was Estonia, one of those Russian states. I'm not the best with geography, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. But the power behind this book, the thing that inspired me the most, was the simplicity about it. In a day and age where strength and conditioning is so complicated, or people think that they're coming up with these unique methods, I oftentimes read about them in books like The Way to Live that was written in 1908. So I'm going to give you a couple of excerpts from the book, and one of the most powerful quotes I've ever heard that I've seen shared quite often from this book is this: health can never be divorced from strength. And the reason why that quote is so powerful is in this book, where George Hackenschmidt blends a bit of an autobiography and a bit of a training manual with his training methods, he talks about always the health behind things, not just how to get strong or how to become this dominant wrestler, which he was. Some of his wrestling matches would last anywhere from 30 minutes up to 2 hours. Now, to give you some context, a college wrestling match is 7 minutes. A high school wrestling match is 6 minutes, where George Hackenschmidt is going 30 minutes or up to 2 hours of wrestling. That is brutal. Now, going into some of these methods, as simple as they are, they're powerful, and they're going to give you context as to things that we hear about today with regards to what makes you healthy, what makes you strong, and maybe simplifying a little bit of those methods. So the first excerpt I want to talk to you about is how the Russian Lion talks about the crucial importance of your mindset when you want to get strong. And I've actually had this conversation with athletes who are struggling to get strong. And I tell them, I say, there's no reason why you need a strength coach to get better at push-ups. If you're here for 3 months, 4 months, and you're not better at push-ups, it's because you're not obsessed. So listen to this excerpt from The Way to Live. Do you wish to become strong? Certainly, you will answer. That is my intention. That is my wish. To which I should reply that a simple wishing will not do it. You must want to. In other words, you must act. You have no idea how much stress I lay on this first condition. The will, I should call that incessant inward impulse, which spurs one to the goal. The beginning is difficult, and many a man gets no further than the initial stages. Remember, guys, this is written in 1908, and we're still experiencing the same struggles over 100 years later. Believe me, excuses which a man may advance, such as, I am too old, I have not sufficient time, my position or my business does not permit, etc., are all mere subterfuges to cover a weak willpower. You Brightons have a splendid proverb, where there's a will, there's a way, and I am a staunch believer in it. And just by studying this book as I prepared for this episode, I caught myself saying things like, man, I am so busy. I'm too tired when I'm done with work to train. And coming back to studying this book because I read this book probably around 2002 or 2003. It just brought me back to the simplicity of things because a lot of George Hackenschmidt's workouts were basics with calisthenics, with a barbell or a dumbbell, or back then they used what was called a short bar. It was kind of a hybrid of a barbell dumbbell, but it was a little bit longer than a dumbbell and shorter than a barbell. But George Hackenschmidt would do basically a lot of calisthenics in the morning, a lot of these body exercises that he would call. So his morning was kind of this, get a lot of fresh air, move the body, do a lot of deep breathing, things that we hear about now and things that actually people sell courses for that people were really teaching in those early 1900s. So it brings me to this part, which I had forgotten about, and I remember how it influenced me and inspired me with running. So we hear so much about the importance of breathing. Listen to what the Russian line says on breathing. He goes, the principal food for man is pure air. So in fact, when he talks about training, he speaks about if you're training back then they were like these health studios, keep the doors open. Or in the summer and springtime, when you go to sleep, leave the windows wide open. And now he talks about the best breathing exercise is actually running. So various deep breathing exercises are recommended by professors and other so-called authorities on physical culture matters. So these early 1900s, that was the time of physical culture. Not wishing to be dragged into any discussion, I will refrain from criticizing these and will confine myself to strongly recommending all my readers to content themselves with the simplest and most natural deep breathing exercise in existence. So listen, one which everyone can practice without trouble and which requires no argument to demonstrate its superiority over all others. So what is he talking about? He's talking about running. This consists simply of running exercise in the open air. So of course, early 1900s, we're not running on treadmills. He's talking about getting outside and running on the regular. Run as much as you can and as often as you can. And whenever you come across a hill, run up it. So think about that. How many times do we come across a hill and just decide to run hill sprints? Again, guys, this is written over 100 years ago, and he's just preaching the basics. The running of the hill will force you to inhale deep breaths and will also accustom you to breathe deep through your nose. Besides the chest and lung development resulting therefrom, you will soon appreciate the benefits which your leg muscles will derive. So in this book, the Russian line talks about constantly doing deep breathing through the nose. His training was simple. It was a lot of clean and press, clean and jerk, lifting exercise, lifting, deadlifting and lifting things off the ground, jump exercises. And then of course, much of his strength building came from wrestling. But what was also interesting was when you read this autobiography of him, in his early years, he had this developmental system, so to speak, of how he was built up. And we're going to show some of the photos of him when he was 16 and 19. I mean, this dude looks like he could destroy people. Even I thought when I saw that photo, wow, if I was built like that or trained like that when I was 16 years old, I would have had a much more bigger and greater advantage over my competition. But in his early years, he did gymnastics, he did swimming, and he did biking. He would go out and ride his bicycle in a sprint fashion. The powerful thing about The Way to Live is the simplicity that he brings forth in training and nutrition. Even with the nutrition, there's nothing complicated. He talks about having a balance of your protein, your carbohydrates, your potatoes, and eating soup. He talks about eating bread. Now, of course, the bread back 100 years ago was much different than the bread today. But I love the simplistic approach to it. And in today's day and age, it's something that a lot of us could benefit from. Whether you're a coach or not, it doesn't matter. This book, like many of the other early physical culture books, You could probably find it on eBay if you're looking for an original, but it has been reprinted. I actually reprinted this book myself and created a program called The Russian Lion. And I basically took a lot of workouts from this that had kind of this minimal variety, but a high volume of sets. And the Russian Lion basically trained like floor press or doing a bridge and floor press, doing calisthenics, jumping exercises, not training too frequently. And the basis of this was be strong, and that makes you healthy. You can't have one without the other. So that's it, guys, for this episode of the Iron Roots podcast brought to you by Play. Again, I'm Zach Evnesh. I love that you guys are supporting us, watching the videos, listening on iTunes. And if you want to see the photos, you got to check out the videos. Check it out at play.pro. That's PLAE.pro. I actually watch and listen to the videos and the presentations on the Play Pro app while I'm driving to work. You're going to love it, so make sure you check it out, and we'll see you next time.